All right, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Geez, happy Sine Die. We have some concurrences. We have a vote list, and I'm also hoping we can what I'll call pre-vote a few bills coming out of rules that are identical cross files. I'm going to start with those just before I forget about them. And again, this is all subject to the leadership of the Rules Committee consenting to reporting them out later this morning. One is SB 1144. This is the identical cross file to Speaker Pro Tem Stein's Clean Water Contracts bill that we passed quite a while ago. Everybody good? Okay. All in favor of SB 1144, please signify by saying aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Okay. The next one is SB 1118. This is the cross file to Vice Chair Boyce's HB 510 on fisheries reporting. I don't know, Vice Chair, if there's anything you want to add about the bill, but this is just the identical cross file bill we already passed. Do you want to just remind our watermen what it is?
I forget. Is this the reporting bill?
Yep.
That was 512.
Yeah, the cross file to 512.
Sorry, you said 510. All the amendments are in. I believe they wanted. Yeah, I think they were adding. No, it's the same. I'm thinking the other bill. It's exactly the same.
This should be identical to the bill the House has passed, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking at Speaker Pro Tem. Our understanding is this is identical to the House bill, correct?
1114 is, yes, I don't know about 1118.
Okay, we'll confirm.
Yes, it is. It is. It's the other bill that was slightly different. This is the exact same. It's the reporting bill.
It's not an identical. It's identical now. They were not designated as cross files,
but they are now.
Yes, and if it's not, we will not be voting on the bill.
Exactly.
Okay.
Are you happy?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Did I get the number wrong? I have SB 1144.
1145. What he said.
We did that.
No, okay. I had 1114 for some reason. Okay. It's fine.
Well, whatever the number is.
Okay, that's the number.
The cross file of the Speaker Pro Tem's Clean Water Contracts bill,
That's
right?
right.
And we already voted that one. We're now on to the fisheries bill. Is everyone good to vote this with the understanding that if for some reason it's not identical, it's never going to be seen again?
That is true.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, we will go on with our voting list. House Bill 56. Chair Love, do you want to do this? You want me to do it? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 56 authorizes an out-of-state dealer of motorhomes or recreational trailers licensed by another state to display or exhibit, but not execute a buyer's order or accept a deposit on motorhomes or recreational trailers at vehicle shows for motorhomes or recreational trailers. With sincere thank yous to Delegate Guyton, who worked very hard to protect her district and work with the sponsors of this bill. The recommendation is favorable with amendments. The subcommittee amendments make the bill statewide and add a reporting requirement and sunset. Move the amendments.
Second. Any discussion on the amendments? All in favor of the amendments, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the amendments? Okay, amendments pass.
Move the bill as amended.
Bill's moved and second. Any discussion on the bill? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, bill passes. Chair Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 60 is the cross file of HB 56 that we just passed. Move the amendments.
All in favor of the amendments, signify by saying aye. Amendments pass on the bill as amended.
Move the bill as amended.
Any discussion? Okay, thank you again, Delegate Guyton, for working that out with our friends on the Eastern Shore. All in favor of SB 60 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, bill passes. I'm going to hold SB 1004. We have some questions from members of the minority party that we want to try to see if we can address before we vote on it. We do have a number of concurrences, starting with House Bill 538. This is the Housing Expansion and Affordability Act, one of the governor's housing bills. The amendments from the Senate make clarifying and technical changes, and they add currently or previously owned federal land that is greater than 80 acres in size and was the site of a former U.S. military reservation as an area subject to the existing provisions in the bill that require local governments to allow the placement of new manufactured and modular homes in zoning districts that allow single-family residential uses and is eligible for increased density from qualified residential projects that provide affordable housing. For qualified projects on former state property or current or former federal property, the amendment modifies mixed-use zoning limits such that projects in this zone may not exceed the highest density in the local jurisdiction's residential zones are 6 units per acre. And for counties or municipalities that already require affordable housing percentages of at least 15%, the amendments require that the qualified projects near rail stations contain units of which at least 20% are affordable. Provide a qualified project exemption for certain properties that are located within 3/4 of a mile of a rail station in the state. If the rail stations are located on the campus of an institute of higher ed, or only a portion of the property is located within 3/4 of a mile of the rail station. And they also make other technical corrections. They made no changes to the APFO provision, which we had struck. And I believe for property within 0.75 miles of rail transit, they kept the limitation on it not applying to single family home zoning. Ben, is there anything else we should add on the amendments? Okay, any question? Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question, you said that the requirement was 20% affordable housing. What was it? I can't remember. What was it in the bill we sent over?
Right. So I should explain. This was actually to address a Montgomery County issue, Delegate Foley. In Montgomery County, most of the places affected by this bill have a 15% MPDU requirement already.
Okay.
Right, affordable housing requirement. So with the bill, because of the changes we made over here, we were basically giving developers in Montgomery County free density, right? A 30% bonus for not doing any additional affordability. So we added in for counties in that situation or municipalities, you have to come up with 5% more affordability beyond the 15% that applies everywhere else.
Okay, so it's 15%, but in Montgomery County, it's 20.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you explained this somewhere and I missed it, I apologize. Do the changes address the historic African-American community in College Park?
Yeah, my understanding is that they were satisfied with the amendments that were put in. I think there's been quite a bit of email traffic about that. There were some other tweaks, I think, that were done as well, because they put Ben, I didn't read it off, but they put the college campus provision in, right, as well. So those provisions do not apply to transit stations on college campuses, which I believe also address their issue.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Delegate Terrassa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the APFO, when you said they didn't touch the APFO, meaning they left it out.
Correct.
Is that
They
correct?
did not touch our changes to it, which we had removed.
Okay. And then to the question that Delegate Foley had, can you state how that was phrased? And how does that work if a county has those requirements, 15% requirements, but has a fee in lieu as an option?
That's a good question about the fee in lieu. I'm not sure I know the answer to that off the top of my head, but we can find out for you.
I just want to make, yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure the new piece that you're using, I want to see if that would apply if you have 15% plus fee in lieu, which I'd like it to.
Yeah.
But I didn't know on that level.
Yep. I mean, I'll have to get clarification for you on that. I would ask that we, move
Yeah,
forward with the
absolutely.
concurrence while we sort of,
Ye-
make sure you get the information you need, which Ben will work on.
Yeah, thank you.
Delegate Healy.
It's about the military base and the 6 units per acre. I understand about it being matching what's nearby. But if what's nearby is like high-rise apartment buildings, why should it only be 6 units on the new property?
Yeah, so this was a provision added by the Senate for a particular campus that I'm not all that familiar with, Delegate Healy. So I know they were trying to address a very specific set of circumstances. So I don't think it's any random site that might happen to be near a bunch of high rises. I think they were thinking of a very specific campus.
Okay. I'll go along, but I still have questions.
Yeah, Delegate Stewart.
Thank you. Just to clarify Delegate Healy's question. So what it says is that in an area zoned for mixed use, this is just the federal campus piece, that a qualified project may consist of residential development with limits that do not exceed the greater of the following. And then it gives you 2 options. So one of them is 6 units per gross acre, and one of them is the highest allowable density in the local jurisdiction's residential zones. And it can't exceed the greater of those.
Okay, let me just ask the question that I mean.
Yep.
In College Park, there are a lot of high-rise, mixed use. I'm sorry, thank you.
In College Park along Route 1, there are a lot of high-rise mixed use buildings. They're zoned for that right there. They're next to the campus. If that kind of zoning is in place or near one of these federal facilities, would that zoning apply, or would the local mixed use zoning apply, or would it be the 6 units? What's the maximum that, how does it match up?
Yeah, so my understanding is this is just the federally owned component that the Senate added, and I don't think that one of these historic federal campuses, as defined in the bill, is in Prince George's County at all.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
thank you.
I almost don't want to say this in this room for the Baltimore County residents, but I think this was a provision related to Baltimore County campus in particular, Delegate Healy. So, okay, I'd move to concur with the Senate amendments. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. And we should record an opposition to the concurrence. Okay. Next up is House Bill 693. This is the Renters' Rights and Stabilization Act. This recalls the governor's renters bill that is also being considered in the Judiciary Committee right now for concurrence. The Senate amendments make technical and clarifying changes, require the written notice of the first offer and first refusal be delivered via first-class mail with a certificate of mailing instead of certified mail return receipt requested. Provides the tenant has 30 days to submit an offer to purchase the property from the date that the landlord delivered the notice of the right of first offer instead of from the date the tenant received the notice. Removes the provision that allows a tenant to enjoin a transfer of property if the tenant's right of first refusal is violated. Permits a security deposit equal up to 2 months' rent if the tenant is eligible and qualifies for utility assistance through the Department of Human Services. The utility bills are paid to the landlord instead of the utility provider, and the tenant and landlord agree to the increase. Removes the requirement that a landlord provide proof of giving written notice 10 days before filing a complaint for repossession. Reduces the surcharge that the district court may assess in summary ejectment cases from $83 to $43. This is still up from the current law of $8. Removes tenant holding over and breach of lease actions from the types of complaints subject to the surcharge. Amendment 2 permits a court to allow a landlord to deduct the $43 surcharge for filing a summary ejectment action from the tenant's security deposit if judgment is granted in the landlord's favor and the lease agreement provides for the deduction. This is sort of the pass-through issue that got a lot of discussion on the floor. Amendment number 3 is a technical correction that ensures the surcharge assessed against the landlord under provision of the law is recoverable by the landlord in keeping with changes made by amendment number 2 above. I would move to concur with the Senate amendments. Any discussion? Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So under the Senate amendments, they would be allowed to pass through the filing fee to the tenant.
Yeah, in a different way. Instead of it being by court order, it would be through a through the security deposit, as the vice chair is reminding me. And this, I would just say, speaking personally, not ideal, but also at this hour, that is the position that we're going to need to deal with because they adopted that on the Senate floor. Delegate Terrassa.
Sorry, I forget my question. I will.
Okay. Well, we're here all day, so. Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know what you mentioned in terms of the reduction of the fee applies to ejectment cases. Any change in the fee for failure to pay rent? Or is it just ejectment?
No, just ejectment.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you please clarify the numbers you went over? I believe there's a $7 fee, and then the governor was proposing a $85 or $90 fee. The House lowered that to maybe from 90 to 83, and you're saying the Senate cut that all the way down to 43. I think that $7 up front doesn't apply on the, reach back, getting it back from the tenant. Are those numbers correct?
I think the current law is $8, but other than that, your math is excellent.
Okay, so what the total amount that can be deducted then from security deposit or wherever it comes from, but gets it back from the tenant is how much?
43.
Okay, I think that's very unfortunate that we're doing that, but thank you.
Delegate Terrassa, take 2.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just so surprised by the other one. You said something about, well, first of all, what Delegate Lehman was talking about. That 43 though now, so that increased fee is what, to Delegate Ruth's point, could get passed on to the tenant through the.
If the landlord is successful in their case, then they can withdraw from the security deposit of the now evicted tenant that dollar amount.
Okay, and what did you say about utilities?
Utilities are This now permits a security deposit equal up to 2 months' rent if the tenant is eligible and qualifies for utility assistance through the Department of Human Services. The utility bills are paid to the landlord instead of the utility provider, and the tenant and landlord agree to the increase.
So, yeah, and the basis for that addition and the rationale from the Senate was for cases where a tenant may be higher risk, and to actually encourage landlords to want to offer tenancies to tenants who might have had prior actions against them or bad credit. If they have the opportunity to have 2 months for the security deposit, it's like an added security for the landlord, and to not discourage them from wanting to rent a more high risk tenant.
Okay, so I guess what I'd say is, obviously we are where we are, and it's unfortunate that it weakened the governor's, or at least from the way we passed it, but I appreciate the explanation.
Sure, and I would just say, I think the sponsor of the bill,
Yeah.
who you just named, wants us to concur with the Senate.
Yeah, of
amendments.
course. Yeah, I mean,
Delegate Stein?
we are where we are.
Yep,
Thank-
Delegate Stein?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I need to clarify something I just said. Summary ejectment does cover failure to pay rent, so apparently there's no difference. So just for the record, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move to concur with the Senate amendments. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone wish to record in opposition? Delegate Ruth. Delegate Lehman. Okay. House Bill 1388. This is an interesting one because we already voted for it on the floor. There was a little snafu administratively. So this is a concurrence that we need to kind of clean up. This bill with the amendment, and this is Delegate Hill's bill, labor and employment, non-compete and conflict of interest clauses, veterinary and healthcare professionals. Sorry, I see vets and I think of you, Delegate Guyton. That's how good you are at branding yourself. As amended, the bill voids non-compete or conflict of interest provisions in an employment contract for vets and vet techs and licensed healthcare professionals. The amendments alter language related to licensed healthcare professionals. It applies these provisions to licensed healthcare professionals who provide patient care and earn less than $350,000 per year, and adds study language. Again, HGO concurred with their piece over the weekend, and we actually took the vote on the floor. And so the clerk is holding the bill to make sure that we concur before it can proceed through the process. So I'd move to concur with the Senate amendments. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. House Bill 761. This is Montgomery County school bus stops. So local bill as amended prohibits in Montgomery County beginning December 31st, 2026, a school bus stop from being located on any highway with 5 or more undivided lanes of traffic unless a school crossing guard is posted at the school bus stop, or a traffic control device that maintains a red signal when students are boarding or exiting the school bus is placed at the school bus stop. I'll just say I spent a lot of time on this with the bill sponsor and the Montgomery County delegation chair. This is also not an ideal outcome, but part of the reason for the long deadline of December 31st, 2026 is because we hope to keep the issue alive and sort of work things out further with the county and that school bus stop vendor as well. So with that, I would move to concur with the Senate amendments.
Exactly.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. House Bill 457 is synthetic turf, chain of custody. The Senate still has this on the floor, but the Senate committee made changes that the sponsor has agreed to and negotiated. We understand those are going to be the last of the changes, so we are going to take a pre-vote now, a pre-concurrence, and obviously if anything changes on the Senate floor, our concurrence no longer applies and we'll have to come back. But the hope is that they'll stick with their side of the deal and we'll be able to get this done. So the amendments make technical changes and then removes language that would have required the reporting of chain of custody information for synthetic turf, sports and playing fields, and requires the Department of Environment in consultation with certain stakeholders to conduct a study on synthetic turf. So this keeps the notice provision and has this turf disposal study, which my understanding is the sponsor is very supportive of the Senate amendment. So I'd move to concur with the Senate amendments. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. House Bill 1117, Tenant Safety Act of 2024 from Delegate Stewart. Senate amendments make technical corrections, remove language that allow a tenant to assert any other defense aside from the landlord's failure to repair serious or dangerous defects that endanger the occupants in an action against the tenant for failure to pay rent that seeks possession of the premises. Creates a rebuttable presumption in a rent escrow action that a tenant is entitled to an abatement of prospective rent and amount to be determined by the court, and removes language prohibiting a tenant from being required to pay more than 50% of the rent amount into escrow, and permits the court to award the landlord attorney's fees, costs, and expenses related to litigation if the court finds that a complaint filed by a tenant in a rent escrow or warranty of habitability action was in bad faith or without substantial justification. I believe both the sponsor and I know the advocates from their communication to me over the weekend want us to concur with the Senate amendments, and so I would move that we concur. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of concurring with the Senate amendments, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. I believe that is it for the concurrences, unless something else popped in while we were sitting here. Okay, Delegate Guyton.
Thank you. 1097, which is a vet tech bill that EEE passed out with the technical amendment that wasn't struck out at our side. Are we going to do a concurrence on that?
If they just refer the bill, we don't have to hear it.
Yeah, we will be meeting again.
Okay,
So
thank you.
when we have, it's further along in the process, we'll convene to do another concurrence.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions while we're on the record? Delegate Love.
Not a question, just a shout out. Happy birthday, Delegate Lehman.
Yes. The gift of a pre-concurrence. All right, see you all. I think the floor might be delayed till 11, but see you all soon.